Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's the guy who's pretty confident this podcast is going to be a 10. I am Rob Cesternino. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rob Has a Podcast. I'm Rob Cesternino, and I'm very excited to be here with another great guest to talk about everything from Survivor 43. Here with me to talk about it is a man who was my winner pick for Survivor 42, made it all the way to the final three, and here to talk about it all. Very excited to catch up with Romeo Escobar. Romeo, how are you?
I'm good, Rob. I've said this to you before, but I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Romeo, you made it to the final three. You know how many winner picks? I don't know if I've had winner picks that were the first boot, but I've definitely had my share of winner picks that don't even make the merge. So
okay,
you did great, Romeo. So don't even worry about that. How are you doing, Romeo?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk to you. It's been a while, but yeah, I'm doing great. I'm busy. Back to work, back to real world. I had a pretty exciting life before Survivor. So just back to that, but busy is good. I've learned that busy is good.
Yeah, I wanted to just talk about a little bit with you that, I think everybody thinks of you as the pageant coach, but that's not your day job, right?
Yeah, I am a pageant coach. I work under the Miss Universe organization. That's what I do. That's my side gig. But my full-time job is I'm a television producer. I won 3 Emmy Awards. I've been in the industry for over a decade. So I also do publicity. I do talent booking. Correspondent work. I do it all.
Okay, Romy, so what do you produce?
Well, the funny thing is my first gig ever was I was a producer for Entertainment Tonight on CBS. And, but there's a rule that you can't be affiliated with CBS and be on Survivor. So I knew that I had to leave my job at Entertainment Tonight at some point if I ever wanted to do Survivor. So there's like a gracing period, I think 2 years, and then it's like a clean slate. So I left Entertainment Tonight for 5 years, and then I was able to do Survivor. But that was my first job.
That was the biggest reason you left, was that so you could compete on Survivor?
Yeah, no, it wasn't I got another offer somewhere else, but that was something that would be in the back of my mind all the time. It's like, man, like I can't be on Survivor unless I'm, get another job.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you are very committed to being on Survivor. How long had you been applying to be on Survivor?
So here's a funny story. I had never applied. And this is a lesson that I tell all the girls that I do coach in pageantry and all my friends and my family. It's like, sometimes we doubt ourselves. I was so scared to apply because I'm like, this is lifelong dreams. And I was 15 and I was like, what if I apply and I don't hear back? Or what if I apply and I don't make it? I'm going to be crushed. I'm going to be devastated. I probably won't watch the show anymore. So I never applied. It was, but I'm a strong believer that if you put something out in the universe, it's going to happen. And I always said I'm going to be on Survivor. So Survivor just kind of came to me in the sense that one of my best friends was it was the Winners at War premiere, and she was with one of the casting people, and I was watching Survivor Winners at Wars. It was the first episode. Everyone's getting off the boat, and I don't know about you, Rob, but as a Survivor fan, you're watching these people that you watched play in different stages in your life. So I was emotional watching, like everyone get off the boat, and just remembering at what point in my life I was when all these people won. So I was getting emotional. My friend calls me, bothering me during Survivor time. So I'm like, this has to be good. Everyone knows don't bother me while Survivor's on. And she says, you're not going to believe this. I'm with the casting person of Survivor. I told her you're a huge fan. You would be great on the show. And I showed her your Instagram and she wants you to put a tape together tomorrow. And I'm like, what? Wait, tomorrow? Like, I need time to prepare, and I did. And then I heard from them right away and the rest is history. So it's just a lesson to me and to everybody that you just need to go for it because you never know. Like maybe if I had applied earlier on, I would have gotten on, but I didn't. So Survivor came to me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I know you're such a big fan, so I'm excited. I always love to talk to the people that really love the show. They loved it beforehand. They did it. They love it after it. And so we'll have some fun talking about everything that's going on We are live here for the patrons of Robin's podcast. We may take some questions live. We also have some questions that we'll get to later on in the interview. But give me your sense of Survivor 43 so far, Romeo. How are you feeling?
All right, so we're 3 episodes in. Like you said, I'm a super fan, so I was excited. I've actually talked to a couple of the 43ers. We're not going to say who, but so I was rooting for some of them. So I'm actually enjoying it. I think I've heard mixed reactions from people in the Survivor community, but I'm enjoying it. I think it's a great cast, very very relatable people. The Beware advantage is different. So I think it's going to be a good season.
Romeo, let me just float something out there. And you can't say this, but maybe I can say it. Is it possible that maybe Survivor 42 was so good that maybe sort of like threw off the instruments? Maybe it's that Survivor 42 was just so much excitement every single week that by comparison, maybe Survivor 43 seems like it got off to a slow start.
I mean, listen, 43 has big shoes to fill with 42. And I'm not just saying that because I was in it. But hey, you know what? They're 3 episodes in, so I have faith. But I'm enjoying it. Like I said, good characters, and I think that's what makes the show. And you have to agree with me. Survivor is all about the people that play it. And this cast is a really good cast. So I have faith that it's going to be a good rest of the season.
Okay. Well, I have faith too, because that the characters are, really interesting and fun to watch. And sometimes, that's what I really don't love about the 3 tribe format is like, I even think about a season, and I know it's not a favorite season of people, but like heroes versus healers versus hustlers, another season, 3 tribes. And so, I think it gets a little, sometimes can get a little stale in the early going with the 3 tribe format where you kind of like know that like what's going to happen when these tribes are going to go to the tribal council. And at least they had a swap in that season, which I don't think we're going to get to in this season. But then, you get to the post merge and, things are very, have a, real chance to shake up. But, what are you going to do? As somebody who played in the 3 tribe format, you played on a wild tribe.
Yeah, well, you know what? I guess it depends. I always have said this, and I'm a strong believer of this even before I was on Survivor. A lot of Survivor is luck.
Mm-hmm.
So, or a lot, depending on what tribes you are, what kind of alliances you make, whatever. So for me, when I found out it was 3 tribes, it's like, oh, great. Well, there's nowhere to hide. There's very little few people, to vote out and who to strategize with. So I see your point. On the other hand, when there's 2 tribes and there's 10 people, you also don't get to know these people as well as you do in a 6-person tribe. So either or, I see both sides of it. I think they need to change it up.
So when you say we don't get to know the people as well, if it's not a 6-person tribe, do you mean like each other for the survivors that are out there, or as a TV viewer, we don't get to know the people as well?
I think both. You can't, in a 6-person tribe, it's inevitable you're going to talk, even if you don't bond or you don't strategize or you don't have an alliance with everybody, you're going to talk to each other because there's only so much that you can do out there, and there's only 5 other faces that you're looking at for 24 hours versus 10 people out there. There's more conversations to be had. You're not going to, not 10 people are not going to bond together as well. So, and also for viewers, there's only 42 minutes in an episode. You can't get to know 10 people in one tribe versus 6 people in one tribe. So I think in both scenarios, it's just easier to get to know people in a 6-person tribe.
I want to get your sense in terms of what happened at Tribal Council this week, because I really feel like, and I'll stand by this, Romeo, you were dominating in the pre-merge. How about that? Am I off base?
Yeah, no, I've said it. I went from CEO to janitor. Pre-merge CEO, post-merge janitor. So, but hey, you know what? Looking back, it's like very few Survivor players have had the opportunity to see what both sides of playing Survivors like. So I was fortunate in that sense. But yeah, pre-merge, I was definitely never going home, was never in danger of going home. I had an alliance with every person. And I immediately, as a matter of fact, when I got off the boat, it was quickly like I just picked up like a bamboo with Drea, and I was like, hey, you, me, and Rox, and she's like, yeah, let's do it. It was instant. So, and I told Drea, I said, our tribe could be very well decimated. And this was before Scene 41. I was like, our tribe could be very well decimated. And the challenges, looking at how we're stacked up against the other two tribes, Jonathan, and then the other tribe, I was like, we have we're probably the tribe that's going to lose every challenge. So let's just keep it simple and say, hey, Yumi and Rox are good till final 3, and then if we lose another one, we lose Rox, and it's just me and you till the end. So I was good. I was fine.
Okay, so that's sort of like the lens that I've been looking at, like this Vessi tribe, where okay, now they're down 2 people, and you have Jesse, who seems like he is in the middle of everything over there, and it seemed like that they had to come to a decision of that they could have voted against Noelle. Now, again, not knowing or not thinking that she had the advantage based on what we saw on the show, or taking out somebody from his own alliance. Did you think that that was the right decision to take out NECA there in that spot?
Okay, so it depends from what person's perspective. If
Let's take it from Jesse's perspective.
Jesse's perspective, it can go either. It's difficult because it could go either way. Okay, so he's good. He's good with Dwight, right?
Yeah.
They have something going on, the marriage or whatever.
Yep.
Even though it's fractured, they still have that bond.
Like a lot of marriages.
Right. And he was good with NECA and Cody. So I think he looked at it as keeping the tribe strong, but I think he made the wrong choice. If I had to choose, like if he was in the right or wrong, I think he made the wrong choice, because I think that Cody and NECA would be more loyal to him than Dwight and Noelle. Noelle doesn't trust him, and Dwight's already iffy about him and the marriage. So I think he made the wrong choice. I think Cody and NECA were going to be more loyal to him than the other two.
Romeo, I agree with you, but here's why this is a stupid game, Survivor, okay? Because I think that Jesse made the wrong choice, but I think that his wrong choice was actually the right choice, because that if they decide, okay, we're gonna keep NECA, and we're gonna vote, unless they really blindsided Dwight and Noelle that they were going to vote out NECA, then Noelle gets the sense of, hey, I'm gonna play my vote steal, and then she's gonna steal his vote and probably vote him out of the game.
That's true. That's very true. It could have gone really bad. So I think, but that's why I said it's tricky. Jesse's a tricky one because it's 50-50. He has options. Unlike Cody, I think that was a horrible play on his part. Because if the tribe loses, he's definitely next to go. And I think it was the right play for Dwight and Noelle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, as far as Noelle goes, like I think she's in a really interesting spot now to be somebody who I think she could kind of control the tribe now, because she has this advantage. And now really, should she tell the other players that, hey, I have a steal a vote. I'll steal your votes if you don't do what I say.
Well, I mean, Dwight, she told Dwight.
Yeah, should she tell Cody and Jesse now?
No, I never think it's a good idea to give too much information to anybody in this game. And we've seen in 41, 42, my season, now in 43, it's like everybody shares everything. And I don't think that's ever a good idea in Survivor. Sure, tell one person that you trust, but telling the whole tribe, it's never a good idea. So I think she should hold on to that. She's so inspirational, and I think she had an amazing episode last night.
No, she really did. She is just like phenomenal story, that she's so amazing in the challenges. And, she was so good at, I mean, she's like Romeo, better than I'm going to be able to do with 2 legs in these challenges.
Right? Like watching her jump off and swim, that was so awesome.
Yeah. So she's done a really great job. Do you think now that they got rid of NECA, who I don't know if I mentioned, had the chance to speak with this morning. NECA seems like a wonderful person. And I'm not sure if she's cut out for Survivor, NECA, but had the chance to talk to her. Was NECA too nice to be on Survivor?
I think, well, first I'll say this. She was definitely an interesting character. And I look forward to meeting her. She seems like a lovely woman. Yeah. I don't know if she's nice to Survivor, but what did concerned me a bit
Yes.
was when she was crying, saying that she let Noelle down. When Noelle would not do the same for her, she doesn't care. She voted for her last time. I would not be crying about letting someone down that voted for me. As soon
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you write my name down, you're
We
dead to me. I
saw,
didn't
we
like
saw
you.
Romeo.
No, so I'm like, I'm not gonna like. No, she's a very nice person. Obviously, if I was in her shoes, I wouldn't care who I let down. I just would go into self-preservation mode at that point.
So they got rid of NECA now. Do you feel like that Vessi is kind of out of the woods with going to tribal councils, or do you think that it's just sort of like, okay, they got rid of NECA, but like this group is going to probably have to vote a couple more people out?
No, I think they're going to go right back to tribal council. I don't think the fact that they're blaming NECA for, yeah, she lost the puzzle, but so did Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
So why was everyone blaming? Yes, she was and did the other puzzle as well, that episode before, but it's like, I don't. If it was her in charge of that puzzle by herself, then sure, she lost the challenge for them. It was
Mm-hmm.
two people, so to blame her solely for losing all these challenges, I don't think was fair either.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't think it's gonna. I think they're probably too dysfunctional now. They're probably gonna end up at tribal council again.
So we saw that Dwight and Jesse, they have the island marriage, and they've been talking about that. Romeo, did you have an island marriage in season 42 of Survivor?
I wouldn't call it a marriage. I mean, but right off the bat, I mean, it was me and Drea. So she was,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
up to now, she's like family to me. So
Okay. And did either of you ever have to sleep on the couch in the island marriage?
oh, absolutely. After post merge, when she abandoned me and she
You were beyond the couch, right?
yeah,
You
I was
were
on
like
the
kicked
couch.
out.
She let me go drown in the ocean.
Yeah. Okay. But you both patched things up after the game.
Oh yeah, she lives 20 minutes from me. She actually moved from Canada to the States, and she was like, "What's close to you? What area should I move to?" I'm like, "Oh, move, here." And she's 20 minutes away. I see her at least once a week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well that's nice because I feel like a lot of times with these Survivor like a few, or if it's sometimes like people like, oh, we were best friends in the game and now we're not talking. So that is a nice story that you have gotten things back on track.
Oh yeah. No, it's a game, and she never voted for me, and I never voted for her, and even though
That's the
whatever
key.
happened in the game, it's like, even Roxroy, like I only voted for him because I had to, and he voted for me because we were each other's choice. But I just was last weekend I was at Roxroy's in Vegas, so.
Oh, how is Roxroy doing? I feel like that he's like a kind of like a recluse from Survivor.
He's a typical dad. He's doing good. He just doesn't have social media. He likes it that way, and hey, good for him. I
Yeah.
mean, eliminating social media from your life, I'm sure, relieves a lot of stress and a lot of unnecessary attention.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with that. Okay, so Romeo, I wanted to ask you about what we saw with the Baka tribe, where we have this very interesting situation where that Gabler has this idol that he can use for another tribal council. However, you saw what Ellie is trying to do. She thinks she's going to be able to trick him into thinking that, oh, I guess my idol is expired. I didn't even realize it.
It was so cringe watching. I mean,
Yes.
it's always so cringe, and that's why I enjoy when the Survivor editors show us these behind of what happens when these conversations are happening, and then when you're out there, you don't realize they're happening. So it was very cringe to watch. But it's fun. It was fun to watch because here she assumes that she's pulling a fast one over Gabler, and the entire time he knows what's happening. So I was just kind of cringing watching it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think that Ellie is going to end up getting voted out over this?
Yeah, I mean, so no, I don't think she's going to be voted off next. But I think looking at the first two episodes, I thought, man, this girl's going to take it all the way. She was playing an amazing game. She slipped a little in episode 3 with the misread on Gabler, and I think she's underestimating the men on the tribe. And I think that's what a lot of us actually do wrong. And when we're out there, is we underestimate people, and we don't, we assume things that aren't necessarily happening. So I don't think she's voted out next. I think The men will probably go after Janine next, just to kind of weaken Ellie's game. But I think that she's gonna have a tougher road ahead of herself, just kind of winning the trust back with the men, with Owen and Sammy, and definitely Gabler. He definitely doesn't trust her.
So Romeo, I thought it was interesting what you said about how, we can underestimate people that are out there with us. Was there anybody that you underestimated when you were out there in Survivor 42?
I underestimated Marianne,
Mm-hmm.
um, for sure. People underestimated me all the time, so I'm used to that. But I think that's, it's a human instinct. You underestimate people or assume things of people just by the little information that you have or based on what you see physically.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So there was this whole saga about going through the bag. Romeo, you were out there with Drea, who had all the advantages. Now, you knew about most of what Drea had,
Mhm.
but did you ever go through Drea or somebody's bag when you
Okay.
were on Survivor?
So confession time, and she knows I did this. Not Drea.
Okay.
Yes, I knew most of her advantages, but it was on the first vote when we were going to tribal council, and we knew that. And I've told Tori about this, but I actually looked in Tori's bag to make sure that she didn't have an idol on the first tribal when we were deciding whether to vote for her or Zach. Um, and so I felt bad about that because I did go through
Okay.
her bag, and I know the whole but I told her about that since, and I think I know the discussion was had of whether it's fair to look through somebody's bag or you shouldn't look through somebody's bag, and I agree with Steven. All is fair. The bag is there. If you don't want somebody looking for your bag, take it with you everywhere or hide it somewhere. If you leave your bag out there, it's fair. Somebody
Yeah.
can look through it.
Okay. What did Tori say when you told her that you went through her bag?
Oh, she was fine with it. I love Tori. We're good.
Yeah. How is Tori after the season?
After the season, she got married.
Yes.
They didn't show a lot, but me and Tori were very close out there as well. We had the pageant connection, we had the religious connection, so we were very close out there. They just didn't show it. She's doing good. She's doing
Yeah.
good. She's
You
one of
know,
the nicest people in our cast, which, despite what the edit might have shown, she's one of the nicest, sweetest people ever.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear because she had it seemed like that she was at odds with different people back in your tribe. We didn't get to see too much of your relationship in the pre-merge, and then in the post-merge, we saw like a little bit like at the beginning of the merge that you two were talking, but then it was almost like because that you both were in not such great positions, it was like
No.
a problem for both of you to be seen talking.
So that was actually what got me at the bottom. Was my relationship with Tori, was because I was very close to her and I was sharing information with her that I probably shouldn't have. And then Drea was Tori's number one nemesis. So when Drea saw me being so close to Tori, she was like, how can my number one be close to my number one nemesis? I can't work with him. So she left me out of the 8-person alliance, and then my game went downhill from there. So it was actually my relationship with Tori and the stuff that I shared with her and my closeness to her that ended up costing me being left out from the 8-person alliance, and they just didn't show that.
So going back to Ellie, I really felt like very strong about how she was going to be doing in this season. I felt like that she had such a strong start. I'm just worried that she has gotten like really all in on trying to, fixate on this Gabler idol plan. Can that happen to survivors where they kind of get tunnel vision about only like obsessing about one thing and sort of at the expense of the rest of their game?
Yeah, what was the term that Omer said? Survivor confident. I think she's
Hmm.
gotten Survivor confident too soon. You can't be Survivor confident in the pre-merge. Like there's so much more game left, and I think she just assumes that she's controlling people or that people can be easily controlled more than they actually can. And that's a dangerous situation when you just assume that people will just go with your plans and listen to whatever you want to have happen.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think she's so smart, and I think she will get herself out of this somehow. She's very smart. Obviously, she's a good Survivor player, so I have faith that she's going to get herself out of this somehow.
We saw the players, James and Owen, go off to. Do you have a name that you like for the new Shipwheel Island?
Who came up with Shipwheel Island?
When me and Steven had started
Okay.
saying it, and then it kind of stuck, but we don't have a good name. There are a bunch of names that are out there, but we've been sort of like I don't want to necessarily lock in on anything that I heard that I haven't loved.
I mean, I would just call it like Advantage Island, even though it's a disadvantage for some people. It's
Yeah.
like it's either you take the advantage or you don't, or you come up, with an advantage or you don't. So
Romeo, some people say that it should be called Roxroy Island.
okay, okay, I'm sure he would like that. I'm sure he would
Yes,
like that.
name it after him. But so we saw Owen and we saw James go out there with Noel. And they like really quickly came to the agreement of, you know what, we want Noel to have this advantage. I know you never went out to Shipwheel Island, but what did you think about that for those two guys to just very quickly just decide to not risk their vote, very like sort of like collude together and say, all right, we are going to. I mean, I guess it was similar to what happened like with Evie and Deshaun in season 41, where they basically just decided, okay, here is the thing. You need it more than I do. You take it.
I think they made the right call. Why overcomplicate things? They both clearly feel safe on their respective tribes, and they're gaining favor with someone that might merge
Mhm.
with. So they already go into this with an advantage without having an advantage. That relationship with Noel, she's going to trust them now. She feels like she owes them because they gave her an advantage in the game. So why not? She was in danger. They're not. I think they played it well.
What about for James? For Owen, I see it for sure. Like Owen needs his vote for, his tribe is probably going to tribal council again, that they're going to have to figure something out. But, we saw that James, and it was his birthday, that maybe for his birthday, they could have let him have the advantage. But, he was even telling his tribe, like, hey, I'm going to go out and look for the idol. It seems like that, he's looking for an advantage.
Yeah, but I also feel like he is probably good with the women. Remember, he was pulled
Mm-hmm.
into the Women Alliance, so he feels pretty confident. We haven't seen that much of their tribe to know the dynamics, but from what we've seen is we know that he was pulled in with the women, so he probably feels good with them. He probably feels like he's strong enough to be good with the men. So I think he made the right choice as well.
Okay, well, let's talk about James's tribe a little bit because we got to see so much of Carla, and I wanted to know if what you thought of Carla after a couple episodes.
Oh, I love Carla. I love Carla. She's a breath of fresh air. Very relatable.
Yeah,
She's Chicana. She's LGBT, and it's so nice to see somebody out there that
super fan. Yeah,
super fan. So it was so nice to see that the editing on her particular scene of her. I don't think has anyone ever put an advantage back.
not that we've ever seen. That's why I thought it was so odd. Where I like, I don't know if anybody else has like found the Beware Advantage. There's the story I remember that Parvati has told, where in Micronesia she claims she found the idol and then just like didn't do anything with it. That she
Okay.
didn't take it. So I feel like that in a normal season of Survivor, like unless that person gets voted out, I almost feel like they wouldn't even show us.
Right, but the fact that she was able to, I think a lot of times people are very impulsive in Survivor. So you see
Mm-hmm.
something, you want to do it, but she put it back. She went back to camp. She analyzed it analytically, got some advice, even though James didn't know that he was giving her
Yeah.
advice, and made the right call for herself, which I think was the right call. It was lovely to see, and she's just very
Mm-hmm.
entertaining to watch. I'm excited to see how well she does.
Remind me about the Beware Advantage from the Ika tribe, because I remember that you talked about like helping Drea with
Yeah.
with. Did you find it together?
So we went looking for it together, and she turned over, and while we were together, and she saw it hanging from a tree. um And then we saw the beware advantage. So at that point, my immediate reaction was, I'm glad it was her, not me, because I have the information. I'm gonna know what it is. She trusts me with it, so I think that's more powerful. And I'm not gonna have the disadvantage or whatever the
Mhm.
beware advantage is. So I thought that it was the best at that point. I thought that it was the best gameplay for me, and also she had an extra vote that she was gonna give to me at that point. So
Yeah.
I was fine with it.
And you all hadn't seen Survivor 41 yet. So, did you have any idea what a beware advantage even was?
No, I mean, all these things were new for us. I think had we seen Survivor 41, maybe certain people would have made different choices and decisions. But it was new. And at that, when you're out there, you're not thinking, man, there's so many advantages. You know, you don't think about it while you're out there and you have so much going on. But when you come back and then you're eating and you're back to normal, you're like, man, that was a lot of advantages. There's too much going on. There was too much going on out there.
Hmm. Okay. So Carla ends up going through and trying to get the beads from everybody. Would you give your beads to anybody, Romeo?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, like I actually used my beads when I created the fake idol. And it hurt me even then. It was for my benefit, but I was like taking the beads from my torch as a Survivor fan, because you're thinking, oh, after Survivor's over, I'm gonna, the torches go off to auction. I'm gonna, bid on my own torch, which I lost, by the way. I didn't get it. But
How much did it go for?
I don't remember. The funny thing is that I was on the auction and it was like 1,000, 1,200, 1,300. I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I looked away for like a minute. I went back, sold. So somebody like outbid me and I was so devastated. Whoever has my torch, please contact me. I'll buy it from you.
Hmm.
But even then it was hard for me to take the beads from my torch because you want that memento. So no, I would definitely not have given my beads to anybody.
How about your fake idol? What happened to your fake idol?
Oh, it was thrown in the fire. It's gone. I should have kept
Oh,
it.
yes. Okay. You just at the final five, you went to Jeff and said, "Hey, Jeff, I just want to let you know this is a fake idol," and you gave it to him.
No, what I should have done is it didn't matter. No, I remember I threw it in the fire. I was like,
Oh, you threw it in the fire. Yeah.
I threw it on the fire. I should have just said, oh, hey guys, by the way, the idol that I was talking about was fake. And here's the thing, obviously post game, everyone was like, oh, of course we knew it was a fake. But what they didn't show is that that Mike was so adamant about having me show him the idol, and I mean the necklace. And I had seen Drea, so I knew what they looked like. They were kind of janky. I mean, very easy to recreate. It wasn't any spectacular. So he wanted to see it because he wanted to make sure that I wasn't lying. So I quickly, while I'm talking to Lindsay and Marianne, and they're not looking, I'm like kind of putting it together because I'm like, crap, I have to show it to Mike. And then so I showed it to him. So they saw it, they believed it. He even said, oh, it looks exactly like the one that I had over, at Vati. So
Yeah.
whether they believe it or not, at that point I felt like even though Lindsay was a bigger threat, she was so much more likable than I was to them that they would still take her and just give her that respect of having her at least be fourth other than fifth, and I would be an easy boot. So I had to come up with a way to at least get myself one more day like I had to play the rest of the post merge.
Yeah. Well, now, what's the difference between a fake idol that you make and then also the real idol? I mean, at the point where the real idol
They look
is
the same.
here's a bracelet, take beads off of the backpacks and add them to it. That's the idol.
Yeah.
Isn't that exactly what your fake idol was?
It was literally the same as it was just a
Yeah.
bracelet with beads, and because my beads were blue, like my backpack, because we were the blue tribe, so my beads were blue. The bracelet was blue. It made sense. It made sense.
Why were people so excited to get Carla's earrings?
Did you see those earrings? Those are good earrings.
Those are nice earrings.
Those are nice earrings.
I don't know. Yeah.
But I think they were more excited of a gesture than the earring itself. What are you going to do with one earring? But I think it was just the nice gesture, and that they felt that it would bond them closer to her, and the fact that it was her earrings that she brought out there, and she played it beautifully. I think it was more that wow, she's giving me one of her possessions, more so than the earring itself.
Carla talked about how, she was she didn't want to take the beware advantage because she's trying to play a perfect game. And she really wants to play the perfect game, and she doesn't want to like do anything that's going to screw that up. Lex in the chat talks about how it was reminding her of Chris Underwood, which I saw on Facebook. Happy birthday, Chris Underwood, today. And is that a thing? Because it hurt Chris Underwood in the Edge of Extinction, where he ended up having to lose the game before he could come back and win it. That can a survivor get screwed up trying to play a perfect game?
I mean, is there even such a thing as a perfect game? I think even the winners of every season have had a moment where they stumble or make the wrong choice. So there's no such thing as a perfect game. You can't play a perfect game on Survivor. It doesn't exist. You just have to play to the best of your ability and hope that you can make it to the end and then prove to the others why you played a close to as perfect game as possible that season.
Yeah, who cares? I'd rather play the worst winning game.
Right. You just want the $1 million in the title. Who cares how you got there?
Yeah, doesn't matter to me to get there. For Carla now, she has the advantage. Is she the front runner in the season? I mean, she has the advantage. She's running that tribe, Coco.
I think for her tribe, she's definitely the front runner. She's good in with the girls. She has the girls alliance with the other two girls, and she's good with Gio. She's good with Ryan. They think she's with them, and she's good with James because she brought him into the women's alliance. So I think she's in the best position possible in her tribe.
Because I really feel like that Carla is going to be even more dangerous once we get to the merge, because I think that, once we get to the merge, like people are going to start looking at, everything that's from the pre-merge, which is why, Romeo, you had such an unusual game where that I would think that you'd be in this category of somebody that, like, I would say, Romeo, oh, okay, well, I think he's probably in danger in the pre-merge, but if this guy makes it to the merge, watch out. And because that's how I feel about Carla, where I feel like that she's, I mean, she did great in the challenge, but I feel like that, she would be somebody that maybe might be a liability, you might think, in the challenges. But if she gets to the merge, I don't think people are necessarily looking at her like they might be looking at like the Ryans and some of the other players, maybe Noel, like the people that are going to be like winning the individual immunities. And she might be in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, and I mean, clearly, I speak from experience when I say your game can completely change when it gets to the post-merge if you make it there. But yeah, I agree with you. I think she's in a good spot because she's not looked as a liability in her original tribe. She has the alliances, and when she gets to the merge, there's all these other bigger threats or looking people that will kind of shield her from getting to the end. So she has a very good shot at taking the whole thing.
Okay, now you have Carla, who has the beware advantage, and then we saw Cody last week that he had the beware advantage. And so in season 42, it was kind of a big deal from the phrases. The people that had the beware advantage got together at the merge, which kind of screwed you up, where you were working with Drea, and now here's Mike and here's Marianne, and they have it, and they have idols, and then that really did help make all of the players that had the advantages kind of like team up and work together, and you kind of got left like standing in the cold. But in this season, I don't know if necessarily all of the players that are going to have the beware advantage. I guess maybe you might spot that somebody has the beads, or you could like ask around like, hey, did anybody take the beads from your tribe, and maybe figure it out that way. But I don't think it's going to be as obvious who has the advantages. And I wonder if the tribal lines might hold a little tighter in season 43.
I think so. I mean, who's going to be looking at who has beads? I mean, at that point, everyone has beads because you get them either from tree mail. They come in these little like nice, these nice little beads that everyone fights for to make bracelets. So everyone's going to have all sorts of bracelets. There's no way that anyone's going to put two and two together. It's like, oh, this person asked for my beads and this person also asked for beads. It's going to be, it's not as obvious as 42. For 42 was pretty obvious. I mean, obviously I knew because I was with Dre when she found the beware advantage. So I knew about the phrases, and some people were clueless to it. But after a while, when someone keeps repeating the phrases, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that there's something weird going on, and it's not going to be as obvious this season with the beads.
I still have a lot of questions for you about season 43, but I do want to go back and talk a little bit more in detail about your season because that it was way overdue. We didn't get the chance to talk right after the season was over, but I had really been looking forward to talking to you about your game back in season 42, and I wanted to spend some time if we could because I feel like there's not a ton else going on in season 43 at this point. But going back to the early days of season 42, could you talk a little bit about life on the Ika tribe?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't as chaotic as the edit made it seem. We
See,
were.
because I think of your tribe as sort of like, oh, that was like the hot mess tribe from
No, I know from the edit it looks that way, but I don't think so. I mean, yeah, people, butted heads, but we also had some very nice moments, and those were the fondest memories that I have of me on Survivor. Obviously, besides winning the final immunity challenge and making it all the way, was back at Ika. When we would have those real survival moments, going out looking for food. When Roxroy caught
the octopus.
Yeah, the octopus, and we all cooked it. I became like the cook out there for our tribe. When we would go hunting for mussels or crabs, and even looking for lizards with Tori and Swathi. So it was those moments that really stand out to me and really bonded us in a survival type of way that we obviously don't get to see in the show. That I really enjoyed.
Okay. What was the power structure in your tribe? Okay. So I know that you were tight with Drea, but Drea was seemingly tight with Roxroy. You were tight with Tori. So, like, who was calling the shots there?
Oh, I was calling the shots, of course.
Yes.
So because here's the thing: if you go, so right from the beginning, like I said, I formed the alliance with Drea and Roxroy. Right, that was my main alliance in my head. But then quickly after the first challenge, Drea's like, well, we got to get rid of Rockstar. I'm like, wait, what? No, we already formed this alliance. We can't do that. Then Zach and the girls wanted to get rid of Drea. And then Rockstar wanted to get rid of Drea because, she went to the advantage. She's not telling us. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a disaster. So it's going to be either Rockstar or Drea first voted out of Survivor 42. No one knows, I don't know if anyone's talked about this. It was going to be Roxroy or Drea. Either one of them two was going to be the first boot from Survivor season 42.
So what happened?
I stopped it. I said, there's no way that the alliance that I made with these two people, one of them is going to go. There's no way that that's going to happen. So I wanted, at that point, I wanted Tori because she was the one that, at that point, the one that I had least connected with. But then the challenge happened, and then the puzzle thing happened, and then everyone started looking at Zach, and Zach was like my plan B. So my plan A was Drea and
what happened to the skinny guys?
Well, the skinny guy alliance was my plan B, but unfortunately, in order to get the attention away from my main alliance, which was Roxroy and Drea, I had to just kind of give in and say, fine, I'll sacrifice poor Zach, my plan B, versus my plan A. And then I just said, all right, it's got to be Zach. But it was basically, if it was not for me, and I tell them now too, I'm like, you realize if it wasn't for me, you guys would have been first boot, and then y'all just booted me from the 8-person alliance. But I think I had a good connection with everybody, and what they showed of Swathi, you're my number one. I was doing the same thing. I did that with everybody. Tori, we had the faith-based alliance. With Swathi, we had an alliance based on, the fact that we related on cultural sense. Her family immigrating from India, my family migrating from Central America. We bonded on that. And then Roxroy and Drea were my main alliance. So I was good with and then Sad, the skinny boy alliance. So I had connection with every single person on my tribe. Everybody wanted to work with me. I was set in the Ika tribe. I could basically dictate okay, this is how it's going to go. I agreed to, okay, let's vote out Zach. And I turned the votes against Swathi because I knew that she was getting too close to Roxroy, and that was a threat to me because Roxroy and Drea were my number one. And I thought maybe he could replace me with her at some point. So she had to go. So Yeah, I had pretty much control over the Ika tribe. I had no worries at Ika tribe. I didn't care if we lost every challenge. I knew that I was going to be good. I would probably be the last person standing.
Yeah, it really feels like you had everything set up almost exactly the way that you wanted it. But if you could do it over again, would you have voted people out in a different order, or would you have like made more firm plans going into the merge?
No, I wouldn't. I think, I wouldn't have voted in a different order, but I would have definitely taken more chances. And that's the thing. Like once this is what happened. Once the merge came, and then I had to start all over because you're meeting new people. And then at that point I started playing scared. Like I'm like, oh my God, these people don't know me, so I have to make new bonds. And then I told Ray, let's separate. You make your relationships, I'll make mine. But so that's what I would do differently. I wouldn't play as scared as I did. I would have just taken more chances and not assume things, and been more active in having people realize the game that I was playing versus the game that they assumed that I was playing. But yeah, the game completely shifted for me after the post merge. But again, it was a unique experience, like you said, because I don't think it's very rarely happens in Survivor where it's like one person is here and there.
Hmm.
But it gave me a different appreciation for the game in the sense that I value more the fact that I was still able to make it all the way to the final three, versus just skating by and just getting there with no one talking about me or no one hating me or wanting to vote me out all the time.
Romeo, you said that you would have taken more chances. What kind of chances do you wish that you would have taken?
I would have gone to Shipwheel Island. I would have said, no, let me have the beware advantage, or let me, I was just
Hmm.
no, let them do it. I
Yeah.
don't know what that implications that's going to have. I played it very safe. I was like, no, I'm not going to go look for. I did look for idols, but not enough. I said, I don't want people not trusting me, going off on my own looking for idols. So in that sense, I would have taken more chances. And if I ever get a chance, I'm going to play a totally to come back. I would totally play a different game in the sense that now it's like, okay, there's no more fear. I know that I can make it all the way to the end. Now I can just play fearlessly.
How big of a goal is that for you to play Survivor again?
It's not. I mean, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, like I said, I had my goal was to get on Survivor. It was never, and that was it. It's another thing that I check off my list. I have an amazing life. I had an amazing life before Survivor. I have an amazing life after Survivor, and Survivor was just like the cherry on top. But I'm still a Survivor fan, so I'm still going to watch.
Yeah. What was the thing, you wanted to do it for so long. What was the thing that was totally different than you ever thought it was going to be to go out there?
Oh, I mean, everyone says this, but it's definitely harder than you think. I mean, as a
Yeah.
fan, you see, and they only show like a minute of the rain. They only show like 1 second of somebody starving. It's like, no, you're starving 24/7. It's raining I think at one point it rained for 42 hours, and you're just like not there anymore. You're like, your brain just leaves your body and you're just laying there in the cold, shivering, being rained on. So it's like, it was definitely a lot harder than I thought. The challenges look easy. They're super hard, especially when you're not eating. Doing simple things like running, picking up a paddle, which is like picking up your torch to go to tribal, becomes heavier and heavier. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot harder than I imagined it would be.
Now, Romeo, you seem like that you really struggled with the food situation back in season 42 of Survivor. Just how bad was it to not have the food for so long?
Well, I mean, if you go back and you pay attention, like everyone had at least a meal, like whether it was a fake merger feast or they won a reward or they were taken to a reward. I didn't eat at all. I was the person that at least ate out there. So until Omer took me towards the end to have that chocolate cake, but prior to that, I was the person that had least eaten out there. So I was starving, and I was the smallest person out there. I think when I came back, I was like 102 pounds. So um, it was rough. It was rough. I think that and the cold. Those, because everyone's like, what's the hardest part about being on Survivor? I think besides the not eating is being cold. I hate being cold and you're
Hmm.
cold. You would think it's Fiji, it's warm, but at night it gets so cold and it's raining and the wind. That was the hardest part.
Yeah. Now you did say this about eating.
We got a little bag of rice. It could have been a bag of cockroaches or pieces of doo-doo, and we would have been celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how desperate we were at that point. You could have given us anything, a piece of chewed, gum, and we would have enjoyed passing it around and sharing it. Just
Mhm.
at that point, you're just so desperate that anything is feels magical out there.
Okay. So, all right, let's talk about then what happened to you at the merge because you came in, you're feeling good, you're in a good spot, and all of a sudden it's just like your worst survivor nightmare.
Yeah, it's like one day I went to sleep feeling, this is great. I'm gonna go to the end. I'm gonna win this thing, and then I wake up and it's like, wait, I'm at the bottom. Like everyone left me. But the thing is, that I was always aware of what was happening. Like I always knew who was getting voted out. I knew when I was left out of the 8-person alliance. I knew who like had the advantages and who didn't. I knew who was targeting who because people would share information with me at different points because I had different relationships with people. So that they didn't show either. And so even the stray votes that everyone was like, why is he voting for random people was because it served two purposes for me. The first purpose was in case somebody played an idol or an advantage or pulled something out,
Mm-hmm.
the next person with the most amount of votes would go, and that would obviously be me because I was the in case Romeo.
Yeah.
Let's throw votes on Romeo just in case. So at least if I throw a vote in someone else's direction, that meant that maybe there would be a tie between me and that other person, and hopefully that other person would go in a revote. That was the first reason I was throwing those stray votes. And then the second reason was if I got to the end, I could look at these people and knowing that they were going, look at these people and say, hey, you know what? Chanel, I didn't vote for you. I didn't end your game. Hi, I didn't vote for you. I didn't
Right.
end your game. Drea, I knew you were going. I didn't vote for you. I didn't end your game. So hopefully would gain some favor with them and say, hey, you know what? He was not the one that voted for me. So I'm going to get him my vote. It didn't work. My strategy didn't work, but that was another reason why I was voting for other people.
Mm-hmm. Now, we saw after you had gotten into the merge, you were in kind of a bad spot. Did you ever think about playing your shot in the dark at any of these votes?
I did. I mean, some tribals I would forget that was even a thing.
Yeah.
But I always knew who was going. So I knew that I was like, I would always, again, vote for somebody else just in case I was being lied to. But I always knew, hey, you know what? You're going to get votes your way, but this is the real target.
Yeah.
So I always knew who was going to go.
Do you think the shot in the dark is helpful for a person that is on the bottom? Because I think that that's kind of like one of the reasons why it's in there. And as somebody who, played most of the post merge from the bottom, I'm really interested to know your perspective on having the shot in the dark as something in your tool belt.
I think so, but it would have to be better odds, I think.
Yeah.
I think that because if there was better odds, then we would actually have seen it worked already at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of pointless to have an advantage in the game if we're never going to see it actually work. So
Yeah.
I, as a fan, not as a player, if I take myself out of the game and I'm watching it from home, I'm hoping that, man, I hope that this shot in the dark works at some point. But will it ever work? I don't know. The chances are so slim that it actually will work. So what's the point of it?
Romeo, I think the best use of it is I think that, if somebody in your position, I think just says, hey, I'm playing the shot in the dark tonight. Okay, I'm playing the shot. And then everybody else like panics about the shot. And like, oh my God, he's playing the shot in the dark. What if it hits? We gotta come up with a backup plan. And then people like they start talking about like, well, whose name are we writing down? And then that person gets mad and like the whole thing sort of gets like really like crazy. Like people lose their minds over how to figure out the shot in the dark. I really feel like it's sort of like you never want to use it, but I feel like that you want to like, if you're at the bottom, like say you're going to use it and then it makes people really scramble.
Right. If you could use it to your advantage and psych people out, I think that's probably the best way to play it is just use it to psych people out and get them to like freak out and come up with these other in case plans. I think that in that way, I agree. It's probably the best way to utilize it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So You were in, some hot water. Then it seemed like that, you were sort of like hung out to dry from your alliance. It seemed like that you were trying to get something together. Did you ever feel like that you had something like a group of people together that between the Tories and Marianne's and Chanel and people that you felt like that were on the outs? Did you think it was ever close to happening?
I tried, and here's the thing. And okay, so I can think of one particular example of this. It was when Chanel, before Chanel was going, and we talked about this too, and we laughed about it because I at one point, it was so cold one night, and Hai lent me his sweater because I was freezing, and and it had a hoodie, so I put his sweater on, and I think it had a hoodie, but regardless of the fact, so I woke up the next day and I was like walking down, and Chanel assumed that it was Hai. So she comes up to me and she taps me on the shoulder. We need to talk. And then I turn around and she sees it's me. And she goes, "Oh, sorry, I thought you were Hai." And I was like, no, no, no. Like if you would give me just a minute to talk to me, we could get something going, So I knew immediately, okay, well, she's still sticking with her Vati people, even though they wanna get rid of her. So, but that was just one missed opportunity. That was an example of a missed opportunity. And there were so many missed opportunities. But I think what it comes down to it is that at some point, I just didn't trust anybody. I didn't trust anybody, people at the bottom, people at the top. Like I just didn't trust anyone. And it became more of a self-preservation. I went into self-preservation mode, and it was like, just Romeo, just get through another day, get through another vote, get through another day, just do whatever you can to get to the end. And then you'll figure it out then. And that's what it was. It was just like, whatever conversations, even though we felt like we did have the underbirdies, with Marianne and Omer, but obviously Omer was playing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, that might be an option for me at some point. But did I ever really trust anyone 100% after the merge? Absolutely not. I just didn't. After I was left out of the 8-person alliance, my trust went out the window with every single person. I just didn't trust anybody.
Now, at a certain point, after the Chanel vote, I think you started to have a real rivalry with Hai for a little bit, and that he was not happy with you. You were not thrilled with him. After the game was over, did you two ever get back on the same page?
Oh yeah. I've been to New Orleans, and I've hung out with Hai, and he's been to LA, and we've hung out. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Yeah, in the game, it's like it's it kind of like became who's going to be the last guy standing.
As a viewer, though, like it was, you two had, I think it was in the merge episode, you two had like a really great conversation, and it seemed like, wow, like I think that Romeo and Hai have like really bonded here. And then it was like a real surprise to see then like the next episode that you two like really had a falling out.
Yeah. No, that was a moment that bonded us forever. I mean, a really life-changing moment for me, in my life, and the fact that the response after that was so overwhelming. But what happened was, a couple of things happened. I mean, it goes back to something that he shared with me about Chanel going, and I went to Tori, and again, my closeness to Tori, I told, don't worry, Tori, because I felt bad. I was like, oh, man, they're targeting Tori. And I was like, don't feel bad, Tori. It's not going to be, at least you're not going to be next. It's going to be Chanel. Chanel then went to Tori. Tori then went to Chanel, told Chanel, hey, Chanel, it's going to be you next. Like, we should do something. Chanel went to Hai, told him, hey, I'm hearing it's me next. Hai pinned it back to me like, oh, I can't trust Romeo. He told Tori about Chanel, and then it was downhill from there. And also the fact that I could tell that my number one ally, Drea, was getting really close to him. So I felt threatened by that. And I was like, oh, that I got to split them up. I got to do something. So I think that's where it stemmed from. And that's where my hinky vote came from, was the fact that I knew he wasn't going home. I knew it was going to be Chanel, but I just threw it onto him because I knew it would get a reaction from him. I knew that it would rattle him. We would go back to camp. He would lose it in front of everyone, and then everyone's attention would be pointed at him, and then they would start targeting him, and that's exactly what happened. And that's what ultimately got him, more attention on him and his game, and got him voted out. So.
Yeah, just to go back to the conversation that you had with Hai in the episode, that was a really powerful moment in the show, because there's not many times in the history of the show that you have two players from the LGBTQ
there's a
community.
reflection coming in. Sorry.
Okay, no, you're looking great, Romeo. They have two players from the LGBTQ community, not only in the game, but in tribes at the same time. Talking about that, we got that this season as well, with Carla and Gio, and it's from what it sounded like that some of the stories that Gio have told is similar to some of the things that you were talking about in season 42.
Yeah, no, it's funny because a lot of people were texting me and saying, "Hey, there's Romeo 2.0 on Survivor 43 with Gio." We have very similar.
Do you appreciate that, or is that or do you push back against it? Like, why are we automatically the same?
No. I appreciate it. I mean, obviously, I'm the original.
Yeah.
No, but I appreciate it because, hey, you know what? It just shows that we have similarities and culturally that unfortunately means that we've had similar difficulties when it comes to our sexuality. And it's a known thing now. And so obviously it's relatable to a lot of people. So I'm glad that it's still continuing with 43. But yeah, that conversation opened up a lot of doors for me in my personal life and in my professional life, and gave me a lot of opportunities within the community. So I'm forever grateful. And the fact that so many people felt seen with that, seen with me and Hai on the beach meant so much to me. And I still say it to this day. It's like, I felt like a winner just because of all the reactions that I received because of that.
Yeah, I watch the shows. I like to watch Survivor with my kids. It makes it like really fun. And I was watching it with my sons. And when Gio was telling that story, that he was like really upset. He said, "Wait, that his family it didn't want him anymore because he was gay." He was like, that the idea of like, wait, that's something that could happen. Like he was really upset that was and we were like it brought up like we had talked to him about like, yeah, that's and he said like, well, if like, would you do that to me if I was gay? I was like, no, like, Dominic, no, like, but it was I think we joke around about the story, the backstories, and it's too much, but it's like they'd be very powerful.
It definitely having players from different backgrounds and different stories definitely lends itself to sharing these important moments, right? These different conversations that otherwise wouldn't be had on national or international television. So I think it's very important. And it's relatable, whether you're part of the community or not part of the community. Everyone has a family. Everyone has fears of not being loved. Everyone has fears of not being accepted for who they are as people. So I think regardless, it's relatable. I think these are important stories that need to be told. And I'm glad that Survivor's continue to tell these stories with Gio and Carla this season.
All right. So, you're sort of like at odds with Hai, but then you have the chance you end up with all the guys that basically like Roxroy's dream team, and Roxroy's former ally that you're with, and the five of you are together, and somehow things turn around where now you have the opportunity that you had to sort of like play up that you were the one who was going to be going home that night. How difficult was that for you to pretend that you were the person? That's something I never experienced. Either I was like, I was never the decoy, and then I was the person being voted out. But I never had the chance to. I feel like that would be fun.
You know what? No, I was relieved when I knew it wasn't me and it was him. But it was hard because Roxroy and I had been together since day one, and I knew I was going to have to vote him out, and I knew he was going to vote me off. And it was strange because I spent we had a lot of time before tribal, so I spent a lot of time with him right before tribal, not talking about the game because I knew what was going to happen. I knew he was done. So I made it a point to spend the rest of the time on the island with him, talking about his family, talking about him, and all that stuff, and really just sharing that experience with him before he was voted off. And it was and after the game, he came up to me and he said, "You know what? I should have paid more attention to you when I was voted off because I could tell that you were upset. I could tell that when I was talking to you, you had like tears in your eyes." And I was like,
Yeah.
"What's going on? Why is he upset?" It's not. And I felt that it was because you were, like you were going to go against me. And it was. I was like, I was upset and I was sad that I was going to have to vote Roxroy out and that he was going home.
Yeah, I know that we've talked about how, sort of like Drea got kind of cold to you and kind of like froze you out of what was going on. But did Roxroy treat you any differently after the merge also?
No. As a matter of fact, Roxroy was the one that told me that High was bringing my name up, so that's how I knew. So no, and I think that even though Roxroy was part of the 8-person alliance, I think he was still being left out a lot of the conversations and strategies because people just know. So
Yeah.
He, in Roxroy's mind, he actually tried to get the Odika back together. He would tell me and Tori, "Hey, let's get back together." He told Drea, "Hey, let's get back together." But there was no way that Drea and Tori were going to work together. But he tried, I tried. It just wasn't going to happen. So no, if it was up to Roxroy, I think we would have stayed eco strong and done what the Takus did and just kind of faked everybody out.
Yeah.
But it just didn't happen.
So Romeo, you're in this 5-person group that's going to go to Tribal Council to vote out Roxroy. Okay, so you're going to vote with High and Omer at that vote. Did you think at all that day about like, well, what if I go to Roxroy and Mike? Could I flip it around the other way? Because you really be the swing vote.
Yeah, I absolutely thought of it. Okay, well, High's safe. So maybe we could turn around on either Mike or Omer, but at that point, I just, I had a soft spot for Omer because he would always keep me informed. And that's how he was playing a good game because he was, in with everybody,
Yeah.
He was in with the 8-person alliance and he was in with the underdog. So, and that's why I had a soft spot for him because he would always tell me what was going on. I always knew what was going on because he would always pull me to the side and tell me who was going, who was voting for me, who was, what was happening. So I don't think that was an option. And I didn't think that I could, and I thought about turning it around and getting Omer and Roxroy to vote against Mike. But I knew that High wasn't going to do that. And High was, had already had a long conversation with me about how he was going to, save me and work with Omer to save me and convince Mike to go against Roxroy to save me. So I knew that was going to happen. And I knew that once Roxroy had made up his mind, there was no changing it. And he had already committed to the guys that he was going to vote me out to save himself. And there was no way that you could convince Roxroy once he's committed to something. So I knew that was not even an option, unfortunately.
Okay. So after that, then you do have the chance to vote out High.
And I don't vote him out because people were already going to vote him out. So why was I going to cast that vote? I was still
okay. So you can't. I have the wiki open. So
I voted for
you voted for Jonathan. Okay. Well,
I voted for Jonathan in the case that High pulled out because right before we went to Tribal Council, High ran, and I don't know if he ran to like go use restroom or something, but he ran, and I told everybody, is anybody paying attention? He's running to the well. Like I was thinking, oh crap, he went to get a hidden immunity idol or something. So I was like, no, there's no way. Everyone's voting for High. Everyone's voting for High. So the only person that's not voting for High is High. He's voting for Jonathan. So I'm going to throw a vote Jonathan's way. So when High pulls out the idol, all the votes are canceled. Guess who's going? Jonathan, not me. Because I knew like, just in case we had a revote, like I didn't want to chance another revote because people are going to vote for me. I was always the in case. So and also the fact that I knew High was going and I had already told him that because he saved me on the Roxroy vote that I would never write his name down again. and I wanted to keep true to my word. So if I made it to the final three, I could look up at him just like with Chanel, just like with Dre, and say, "Hey, I didn't end your dream. I remember I voted for Jonathan at tribal, which I did. I said it at tribal council, but it didn't help at that point. It was a lost cause. But that was the two reasons why I didn't vote for Hyatt at his tribal council.
Jury management, yeah.
Jury management, yeah.
You brought up Jonathan. Did you have any relationship with Jonathan in the game? I'm trying to remember if there were any scenes between the two of you together in the season.
Yeah, that's the thing. Again, something that they didn't show. They didn't show my relationships. Like, obviously they have to explain why I was a serial vote finalist, but I had a relationship with everybody. We actually had an alliance, me and Jonathan, called Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, okay.
Biggie Smalls. Guess who was Biggs, who was Smalls.
Yeah, makes sense.
That was a secret alliance that I had with him. And so, yeah, I had a relationship with him. I had a really good relationship with Lindsay. They didn't show either. We would be the only ones that slept in the shelter. We would talk for hours about guys, food, and all this stuff. I had my previous relationship with Rox and Drea. I was really close to Tori with our faith-based alliance. Obviously, I had an alliance with Marianne. Mike was the only one that knew my real age. So I had relationships with everybody. They just didn't show it. Obviously, they have to explain why I was a serial vote finalist, but I did have a relationship with him. And as a matter of fact, he was out here in LA recently, and me and Drea went out to Venice Beach, and it was nice seeing him again.
I'm sure that he fit right in.
Yeah, people, Survivor fans would get a kick out of seeing the three of us together. And yeah, we did have a relationship.
Yeah. So, okay. So you had all these good relationships. Why couldn't you get back into the fold a little bit more at this point?
It was too late. I think that's the one thing about Survivor. And I always said, and I always knew this before going on Survivor, but perception is reality out there. And so people's perceptions of me was that I wasn't playing at that point, that I was just laying down, not doing anything, not building these relationships, when in reality I was just sitting back and just letting all these bigger players eat each other and just getting one more day because I always know the in case, and then but still harboring and working on these relationships on the side. The problem was that I did it too hidden. Nobody knew that I had relationships with this person. Nobody knew that I was doing this. So the perception of people was that I wasn't playing the game. And then by the point we got to the final three, it was too late. You can't change people's perspective in 24 hours. And it's my fault. I blame myself. Perception is reality. And unfortunately, people's perception of me out there was wrong, but that's the perception that I let them have of me. And it is what it is. Again, hindsight's 2020. If I went out there again, it would be a totally different story. But I can't have any regrets now,
How were you feeling as the game went on? Because it was my perception that it wasn't so much that like you weren't working, but my perception was sort of like that you seemed like you had like run out of gas a little bit, where that so long without eating and without the reward, and some of us go on Survivor and we have like more in the reserves when we go out there. But when you start the game in the Skinny Guys Alliance,
right.
like, I feel like that your body just eventually doesn't have anything else to work off of.
No, the funny thing is that when obviously only my immediate family knew I was going on Survivor, and their advice was like, you got to put on some weight, so you have more to burn out there. You're going to lose a lot of weight out there.
Yeah.
But my thing is like, I'm going to be out there shirtless, running around, jumping. The last thing I want to do is be jiggly out there. I'm not going to be jiggling out there. So I was like, no, I'm going to get trim. I'm going to, work out. So I felt good going out there, being shirtless. But the problem is you're not eating, so you lose so much weight rapidly. So that was a mistake I made. But did I run out of gas? I would say I felt really low. There was a lot of times where I was like, you know what? Screw these people. No one wants to work with me. I'm always the in case. And then I would have someone like Marianne just like propping me up, like, no, we're at the bottom now, but we're going to be on top later. Things are changing, and she would motivate me. And I'm like, okay, I could do this. And then I would pump myself up. And then towards the end, I was like, man, okay, as long as I get one more day ahead. And then I felt so at some point, yes, I did feel like there was nothing more for me to give. I was starving. I was cold. I was angry all the time at everybody. I hated everybody. I couldn't hear any more stories about dogs and dates. And I was just over it. But as the game progressed, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm making one more day. I'm still, hang
Yeah.
in there, Romeo. It's still, you're still in it. You're still in it. And then I just felt like I got my groove back. But at that point, it was already too late. Like, again, the perception was there already. It was too late. There was nothing that I can do to change people's perceptions of me. But it's just hard. It's hard when you're not eating and you're not, and you're being rained on, and you have people constantly picking, like, talking about you behind your back, and you don't trust anybody. So it did play a number on me. It's different when you're playing the game and you're in power and people want to work with you and you're calling the shots. It's a totally different story when you have no one to play with. You're always on the chopping block, and you feel like you have no one. It messes with you, mentally messes with you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if I've ever heard anybody ever articulate that before, about how, the game is more physically taxing when you're not in a good position, as opposed to when, are like, 20 days being at the top of the alliance. Like, how many days does that equal being at the bottom of the alliance?
Right. And it's like, a lot of the game is mental, so it does toll on you. But the thing is that I've learned myself being out there is you just don't give up, because you never know what's going to happen. The game takes so many twists and turns, and you might end up in the final three and pleading your case to the jury. You can never give up. You just got to keep pushing, even though you feel like at the bottom, you can't give up.
Okay. So when the knowledge is power thing happened, how surprised were you about everything that went on?
So that's the one that I didn't know about.
Yes.
And if I had known about it, then, well, here's the thing. I actually told Drea at that point. I knew she was going, and I was like, I still had a soft spot for her, and I was like, you know what? Even though she left me out of the 8-person alliance, like I still had, my somewhat an allegiance to her, and I said, you know what, Drea, like, go talk to Omer. Go talk to Omer, because go talk to Omer, then he'll talk to Marianne, and then he'll probably convince them to keep you at least for one more vote, and then we could come up with something. Let's turn the votes on Mike. So that was the plan, like turn on Mike, not knowing that I was sending Drea off to her demise to reveal the knowledge is power to Omer. He would then turn it against her and get her, get Mike's idol. But had she told me, we would have played it completely different, and she would not have gone home that day, and it probably would have been Mike. So that's so I'm gonna blame her. She's gonna blame me for sending her to Omer, because she's like, no, Romeo told me, go talk to Omer. He could really convince people to keep you and turn on Mike. But if I had known about that advantage, things would have been a lot different.
And then one of the things that just kind of came out of nowhere, it's like, oh, Marianne and Romeo have a alliance together, and this was like sort of just like out of the blue on the show. But you talked about the what was it?
No, we were like the after the merge the entire time, under Birdie. So
under Birdie,
like the underdogs, and I've told this story before where we felt like the underdogs. Okay, well, let's have the underdogs come together. And then at that point, we thought Omer was one of us. We had no clue.
And he hates dogs, right?
Yeah, he hates dogs. So he was like, no, I don't want to be the underdogs.
Can I tell you another thing about, so I was watching Survivor with my son last night, and I was telling him about Sammy's job, that he works as a pet cremator.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, what is that? I'm like, oh, he turns a dead dog into ashes. And he was so upset.
Sounds traumatizing.
They turn dead dogs into ashes. I'm like, yeah, he's like, the people. I'm like, well, not everybody wants to have a funeral and bury a dog. Sometimes they're he's like, would you do that to our dog? I was like, I don't know. We're gonna have a grave for her.
I was disturbed by Sammy's confessional talking about chugging dead pets into a furnace. I was just
promise me you're not gonna ever do that. I'm like, all right, that's look, the dog is 1 year old. We don't have to worry about this right now.
Right. All right.
He's very upset. Sorry, Romeo.
I was upset too when I'm a dog person. So
yes, I think you didn't want to hear any more stories about people's dogs.
No, I mean, I want to hear stories about my dog, not about other people's dogs. I was
Hmm.
over it. I was at that point. I was the fireside
Yes.
camp chats. Everyone was like,
But yeah, so I had said that Omer is not a dog person.
no, no, no. So we were the underbreed. So no, me and Marianne were in an alliance. A long time. They just didn't show
Hmm.
it. Again, it's just, obviously there's 42. You can't show everybody's alliances. You can't show
Yeah.
everybody's relationships. And also you have to keep that surprise factor because then people would automatically assume, oh, he's obviously taking Marianne when he wins the final immunity challenge. So I think that's also the reason why it wasn't given away or wasn't shown clear cut about our lines. But yes, Marianne was one of my biggest supporters out there.
Well, one of my favorite scenes from that season is when Marianne comes to you and is like, "How many votes do we have tonight?" And you're like, two. And she's like, "Wrong."
Yeah, that was the day we turned on Omer, and I had a hard time doing that because again I had a soft spot for Omer. He was the one that would bring all this information.
Romeo, I thought you were more cutthroat.
I was, and I hated everybody out there. Trust me. I mean, if the edit, the confessionals that were left on the edit room floor of mine,
We're worse.
horrible. I mean, horrible. And I warned everybody when we got back because I didn't know what the edit was going to be, and I warned everybody as soon as we landed in LAX. I went up to everybody and I was like, "Hey, warning! I talked a lot of, about
Ish.
you,
Yeah. Do. Yeah.
ish about you on the show. I'm sorry. I was angry. I was hungry. But yeah, a lot of it wasn't shown. But yeah, I did have a soft spot for him just because he was giving me so much information, and I was always in the know because of him. But I knew that I had to turn on him once I realized that he was playing all of us and he was lying to all of us. That's when I was like, okay, you've been lying to me this entire time, making us believe that you were at the bottom with us when in reality you weren't. You were with these people. You were just playing all sides. I was like, no, you're done. I'm going with Marianne. You're getting voted out tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was like the biggest move of the season.
Yeah, and she totally convinced me to do it. I mean, everybody talked about it. I mean, Mike and Jonathan talked to me about it as well. Like, hey, we got to get over. But um, it was really Marianne, the one that convinced me personally to turn on Omer and why we had to turn on Omer at that point. So yeah, I give her credit for that.
Remind me, Romeo, and did you know that Mike and Jonathan were writing your names down that night?
I always expected someone to write my name down. So I was never surprised when I saw my name pop up, but I was angry. I was like, really? Like, you still wrote my name down? Like, but they showed a little bit of it when we got back to the final episode when the five of us got back. Lindsay and Jonathan were getting into it like, oh, I can't believe you did this. And I'm also angry because I'm like, why did you guys still write my name down? And no, but I was never shocked when I saw my name pop up at Tribal.
Okay. So at the final five, okay. Now then nobody's even talking about voting for you. That's was this because of your idol, do you feel like?
No, I felt like everyone at that point, it was like, oh, Romeo's easy to beat. We're all going to sit next to him. We're going to win next to him. So that's why for me, it's like at that point I knew, okay, I lost. But I still felt that I had to prove to myself more than anyone that I could take myself there. I didn't want to just be dragged to the final three. So that's why I needed to win that final immunity challenge. So I was like, there's no way. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's a wrestling match against Jonathan, like I'm still gonna give it my all because I needed to prove to myself that I could take myself again. I wasn't gonna be dragged as a goat like everybody saw me. And that's why that final immunity was so important to me. I knew that I had lost, but at least I proved to myself that I sat myself in that chair.
Yes. And you got to show off your fake idol at that point.
Yeah, my arts and crafts. I was never good at them.
So was that the first time that you showed it to people, or did people? Okay.
No, remember I had showed it to Mike. He made me show it to him.
Yes.
He made me show it to him. Just to prove that I was telling the truth. So,
but that wasn't in the episode, correct?
No, it wasn't shown in the episode, but he sat next to me in the log and he's like, let me see. I just want to compare it. And I'm like, I know what you're doing. You just want to make sure that I'm telling the truth with an idol because you want to vote me out because at that point, I'm sure he felt bad for Lindsay and he's like, okay, maybe we keep her for one more vote. So even though everyone's like, oh, we knew it was a fake idol, I still feel like they still would have voted me out just because they like Lindsay more than they like like me at that point. So I was like, at that point, I'm gonna do anything I can to get myself one more day. So
yeah. And you and Marianne were really on the stall team to try to stop the guys from going out to go find the clue for the idol, right?
yeah. At some point, it was like we were just like pretending. We were like, wait, what is that word? Because it's like, oh, I think there was even a confessional. I was like, Lindsay, get it, girl. Like, I'm like, you know what? More power to her. Let her get it. I mean, um, I wouldn't begrudge her if she had made it to the end and won either, just like Marianne. So it was funny because we were just kind of playing stupid that we couldn't figure it out.
But then, okay, so Lindsay goes out, and then I think you would probably have to say the highlight of your Survivor experience had to have been winning this final immunity challenge, beating out Marianne, beating out Mike, and beating out Jonathan, Biggie Smalls.
Yeah, I mean, come on. At that point, I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna win any immunity challenge, especially not against Jonathan." So, but like I said, I went in there like I'm gonna give it my all. There, I have to go out with a bang, even though I'm gonna lose. I want to have like that moment for myself, that moment that I could look back and say, "Okay,
a sim moment." Yeah.
And
you're such a big fan, Romeo. Is that anything that you ever practiced? And is there any way that you can practice that one? Because I mean, that's basically like the final challenge of like every other season at this point.
No, I practice as far as like making fire. I would make fire in my backyard. I bought flint on Amazon, so I knew how to make fire. I hired 2 swim coaches to help me with my swimming, not a strong swimmer, personal trainer to make sure that I wasn't, jiggly. So I took an outdoor course, because I'd never been camping. So I did that. But as far as like practicing going that extreme practice emotion, no, I didn't. And here's a story that I've never told before. People didn't realize because again, it wasn't shown. If you notice closely, I have a bandage in my hand.
Yeah.
So I have an injury, and that happened because I cut myself with a machete out there, and I got 3 stitches. And so I already had this injury in my hand. So when the ball from some motion would hit my hand, because it was this hand, it would hurt so bad. Every time the ball, because it's coming with force. So every time the ball would hit my hand, in my injury, it would hurt. So, so I was doing the motion with an injured hand, in pain, tired, emotionally spent. But it was definitely the most important challenge for me.
Yeah. That must have been such a cool moment. Like, I feel like that's the dream, to go on Survivor and then to win. I mean, I guess to win the game, but second to that, to win the final challenge, that must have been such a cool moment.
Yeah, the final challenge, have that necklace on your, placed by you by Jeff Probst. Are you kidding? And the final one, the most important immunity challenge, and you being the person that decides the rest of the outcome of the game, essentially, who goes with you, who goes to fire. I feel like I said, I felt like I won Miss Universe out there.
But especially for you, Romeo, because, I don't want to speak for you, but I have to imagine, nobody was thinking you were going to come in and win the final immunity challenge.
No. I mean, again, no one expected that. I think it was certain players' biggest fear of me winning, because it was so unpredictable as far as what I would do. And at one point I thought, what if I put myself to fire and try and pull Chris Underwood? But I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to lose anyway. So I might as well just get myself in the final 3 as a Survivor fan. I'm like, I want to, be yelled at Final Tribal Council by the jury and all that stuff. So I'm like, you know what? No, I'm just going to secure my spot in the final 3.
But you know what? Like, isn't that Survivor where like the most like unlikely person wins the final immunity challenge? I mean, there's so many seasons where a person who's never won any immunity challenges the rest of the season ends up coming out of nowhere and winning the final immunity. Like it happens so much.
Yeah, but I will say this though. It's like, I was the ultimate underdog of Survivor.
Underbird. Yeah.
Underbird.
Yes, because Omer is watching. See,
Omer's watching. Please. Oh, hi, Omer. Yeah, ultimate Underbird, right? But but if you look back, like I was never first out in any challenge. I never caused my tribe to lose a challenge. So it wasn't like I was the worst person out there. I'm not going to say names, but yeah, you're right. I never won a challenge. So it was unexpected, and I think that's what makes Survivor so great and entertaining to watch, is the fact that anyone can win, anyone can do well on Survivor if you just basically believe in yourself and don't give up. So and it takes so many twists and turns. And also I strongly believe this is, people are going to think I'm crazy when I say this, but I tell people this all the time. There's some juju in the Fiji air. There's some Survivor gods, weird crap going on out there, because at pre-Ponderosa, it was Jonathan, Mike, Marianne, and myself sitting next to each other. In the drone shots, the cast shots, when you're walking in the beach, it's me, Mike, and Marianne walking next to each other. So it's weird. If you look back and you pay attention to that, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's like the Survivor gods already had it all figured out.
It's so funny because it's like, and I say this with all due respect, like it's a stupid TV show, and there has all these problems, there's all these things that we complain about, but there's so many things, little things that happen with this that are just like what sometimes it's like, oh my God, like how it, like could that be a coincidence that it worked out like that? And just like through all the years of the show, like there's like just so many like little cool moments like that.
Oh, I felt like the entire game I was like hanging on by my fingernails.
Hanging there.
So there was definitely some Survivor, weird god juju, something going on that was just like, because every tribal, if you pay close attention, I'm like looking back. Okay, there's my torch, there's my backpack. Because I remember Sandra had said this in an episode. She's like, when people get voted out, they're all over the place. They can't find their torch. I was like, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to look like a fool. I'm going to get my torch and go out with dignity and have my cute photo with Jeff when my torch is being extinguished, so I can post it on my Instagram after this is over and be done, and go eat some pizza. But that never happened. And I think
not until the finale.
But and even then I didn't get my torch snuffed. So it's like it's weird. I really felt this press, and I'm a religious person, but I just really feel that there's something out there that's just like some weird Survivor Fiji voodoo going on out there. Yeah.
So you said, as a super fan, you wanted to sit there and get yelled at the final tribal council. Did you get yelled at the final tribal council?
No, it wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as I expected. I think our jury was very respectful, and a lot of times, even though they were hard on us, they were also very encouraging. And even when sometimes we would, any of the final three would doubt ourselves and answering a question, they would actually encourage us and say, no, but remember, you did do this and you did, that was really admirable. So no, I didn't. But I was really proud of my final three performance in that tribal council again, because I went in there knowing that I had lost. Also, it was more about explaining my game to the fans and explaining to them how I got there, not necessarily trying to convince the jury to vote for me, because I knew at that point I had lost.
Yeah. I have some questions for you from the listeners of the podcast about your experience and Survivor 43. Let me ask you, got a question from May, who said, if Survivor 43 was a pageant, Romeo, who would win?
Oh, hands down, Justine. Justine has the best pre-Survivor photo. I mean,
better than Cassidy.
I mean, okay, Cassidy will give her a run for her money. But if I had to choose one, okay, so Cassidy and Justine would be holding hands. And then you would announce, the Miss Universe. It would go to Justine. Cassidy would be first runner-up in case something happens to her.
Well,
Justine, for sure.
I do the podcast with Bryce where we do It's a Look, and Bryce goes through and we talk about all the photos. But yeah, the cast was really serving Romeo.
They were definitely serving. I mean, but she looked amazing out there. Like, who looks that good when you're not showering and starving and in the dirt? I mean, it would definitely be her.
Okay. So we had some questions. People wanted to know what you thought about, and I know you're a big reality fan. What you thought about Taylor from Big Brother, who was a pageant winner, Miss Michigan, who went on to great success in Big Brother. And I wanted to know that for you as a pageant coach, could you like to see something in Taylor from the jump that made you feel like, okay, watch out for Taylor?
Oh, well, here's the thing. I knew if she made it to the final 2 seeds, she was winning. There's no competing against a pageant girl. You're
Right.
trained to speak publicly. You're trained to answer questions. You're trained to, give the best answer to any question that the jury or the judges or whatever throws at you. She's had years of practice. She went on to Miss USA. She won Miss Michigan. There was no doubt that her pageant experience helped her giving one of the best Big Brother final 2 speeches in the history of the show. And I was rooting for her. Of course I had to root for her. She's a pageant girl.
Yeah. I mean, they were dumb to let her even get close to there. I mean, for Monty, not to do Big Brother podcast in a Survivor podcast, but the idea that he took her to the, not even like she won and got there, that he took her to the end, that was wild.
He underestimated her.
Just like bring it back with Ellie and Gabler.
That's the thing. In any of these shows, you underestimate people
at your own expense.
Exactly. And that's, I think, what happened with him. But again, she could have been sitting next to anyone, and I think she would have knocked it out of the park because she has that public speaking experience. And definitely, here's the thing. If any advice you're going to take from me, a losing finalist, a 0-vote finalist from Survivor, is get a speech coach. Train and you're answering questions, because it's definitely gonna, if you look back at every final, whether it's Big Brother, Survivor, whatever it may be, the person that articulates their game the best and answers the question the best are usually the people that win. And you saw, Marianne did a wonderful job articulating her game that a lot of people weren't aware of, and she won. Taylor obviously did an amazing job articulating her game, and she won. So that would be my advice, is take a public speaking class or course,
right.
just practice on that, because it's going to come in handy.
And I think it was during the Big Brother finale podcast, I had made some comparisons between Taylor and Marianne, who were both players that were underestimated. But when they got the chance to shine in that, final Tribal Council, Big Brother Final 2 format, they were really able to, give a very like emotionally charged narrative of like why their journey was important and why they should be the winner. And, like how that, maybe this wasn't, they didn't win the way that you thought that they, that they would, like the things that they did so well, that, it wasn't an accident that they were there. And they both just gave like such great speeches, moving speeches in the final 2, where it was like, great jobs by both of them in the same year.
Yeah. And I mean, both historic wins in their own right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was an amazing year for reality television. And I can't wait to meet Taylor. I'm kicking myself because I didn't go to that the real Love Boat thing. They invited me to, I turned it down. But I would have met her there, but I'm sure I'll meet her at some point.
One of these days. Yeah.
One of these days. So yeah, I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan.
Okay. Dan Sinensky says, Romeo, you had some of the best confessionals of the season for season 42. It's both sincere and funny. How did you keep your thoughts for the camera separate from interactions with the other players? Because sometimes you were a little cutting in the confessionals, but I don't get the sense that you were saying those things to people to their faces when you were out there.
It's funny because that's, again, perception is reality, right? So perception, you're at camp, you're just eating your rice, you're just like, yeah. And then the camera, you go to confessionals and the camera turns on and you're like, I hate this person, and all this stuff. So I get it. there's so much that was left on the cutting floor, but that's just my personality. It's like, I can be a bit bitchy sometimes, but I mean well. I just, when you're starving and you have people against you and you're playing this cutthroat game, I was kind of mean sometimes. Yeah. But no, I wasn't, obviously, when I wasn't saying that to people's faces. I mean, that would be dumb. You go back to camp and you just try and put on a smiley face and just lay back and eat people's rice.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like a little bit of like a pressure release also. Like these people are like on your last nerve, and you can sit there with the producer and it's like, all right, can I tell you about this person? Can I tell you what this person is doing today? And then you go back like, okay, I feel better. All right, let me go back and live with them.
I'm sure a lot of those confessionals, I'm sure they can't show on CBS. But it was fun because, like, a lot, like you said, it's an opportunity for you to just be real, and you don't have to hold back because the players aren't listening. And a lot of times the producer that was interviewing me would either look at me like I was crazy or would burst out laughing. So it was one or the other. And yeah, so yeah, there was a lot that the audience missed out because there was a lot of snarky confessionals that weren't shown, for sure.
All right. Mike Kimura has a great question. So Mike Kimura says there are 2 survivors with 3 Emmy wins. They are Mike White and Romeo Escobar. Ask Romeo about his 3 Emmy wins. Romeo is an entertainment producer for local Los Angeles Orange County TV KTLA Channel 5, which ran several stories on Romeo during his season 42 of Survivor. Now, I saw a picture of you from the Emmys with fellow Survivor Emmy winner Mike White.
Losing finalist. We have that in common.
Losing finalist. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, also Rebecca from Cook Islands won a Emmy for makeup, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 3 of us. Yeah.
Romeo, I am a 6-time podcast award winner also.
Okay. There you go.
But I haven't gotten to the finals. I haven't gotten to the Survivor finals. Yeah.
Well, you would have gotten to the finals if back in your season there was a final 3. So.
Yes, and if I would have won the final challenge like you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No. So yeah. So I won my first 2. So yeah, it's me, Mike, and Rebecca. So I won 3 Emmy awards. So I won the most. But this was before Survivor. Obviously, my first 2 Emmy awards were for producing for Entertainment Tonight. And then those were national Emmys. And then my 3rd Emmy was for producing local news, which is my current job. I work for the #1 news station here in Los Angeles, KTLA. I produce all their entertainment coverage. So I won an Emmy for that. So that's my 3rd Emmy. So I have 2 national and 1 local.
Yeah. As a former Los Angeles resident, I know the station well. Yeah. So congratulations on all the success. That's really cool.
Yeah. And they really enjoyed my time on Survivor. I mean, like what he said was right. I mean, every Wednesday and Thursday, they promoted the hell out of me. They had a blast showing clips of me. And
because it's the local CBS.
No, right? It's not CBS. It's not it's local CW. But still, like CW, but it's CBS family. Neutral. It's neutral. Yeah, it's neutral. So they enjoyed the journey as much as I did. And they at a certain point, I was tired of watching, reports on myself. I'm like, what are we talking about today? We're in the planning process. And they're like, whoa, your last night's episode. And I'm like, again? Like, I don't, like, why are we talking about me again? So they were very supportive. But yeah, those are my 3 Emmy awards. So listen, I mean, I work with so many celebrities. I've talked to so many celebrities. I've even been locked in a hotel room with J-Lo for 30 minutes, and when she was dating Casper for the Grammy. So I mean, I've traveled the world with the Jackson brothers when they went to Morocco for their music festival. I've done some amazing things, So that's why I say, when I say Survivor was the icing on the cake, you know what I'm saying? It's like I've done a lot of amazing things. So
yeah. I have a question for you from Meredith. Wants to know, okay, in the previews for next week, we saw that somebody gets to steal something from another tribe's camp. Do you think that they would allow Vessi or Coco members to steal a bead from Baca's camp just to block them from ever having the complete idol?
No, I think that is definitely, they're not going to probably show that, but the producer is definitely going to tell them, you can take this, but you can't take the bead, because then that would take away the whole purpose of the Beware advantage.
Okay.
But what are they going to take? It's not like in these.
Yeah, they don't have it. Nobody has anything. What are they going to take? Right. This isn't like Survivor Pearl Islands where they went to the village and they have a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. Or, back in the days.
The fishing gear, I guess they have. Yeah.
Right. But back in the days, remember, they would give people beans and canned goods and like ponchos for the rain. I'm like, we don't have any of that. What are they going to take?
Mm-hmm. Okay. This was a question from Grace Mullen, who said, if you had to make a bracelet idol, how would you convince your tribe to give you the beads?
I think Carla played it the best. I think approaching them individually with their own personal story and see what matters to them, and exchanging, something of theirs with yours. I think that's the best strategy. I think if I had to do that over at Ika, there's definitely 100% I would have gotten everyone's beads because I had the relationships with everybody and I related with them in a personal way, and I could have come up with a way that I could convince them to give me their beads.
Mm-hmm. Everybody, not one person would have been a holdout?
Over at Ika? No, absolutely not. Nope.
Okay. How about from DJ Vinyl Richie wants to know, do you want a pre-merge swap? I feel like the tribe dynamics are getting interesting, and I'd like to see it play out until the merge. For a long time, I was like, why don't we not do a swap? But now they didn't do it for a while, and I'm like, hey, could we do a swap?
Oh, I think that it makes sense to have a swap when you have 10 people on each tribe, but when you have 6, I mean, it might not make. I mean, listen, for me personally, I'm glad they didn't have a swap because again, I was set at Ika, so I was fine with no swaps. I was actually happy we didn't have a swap because who knows what would have happened. Again, this game is a lot about chance and luck. So if you mix stuff up, who knows who you would have ended up with and what would have happened.
Romeo, what I would like to see is them go from 3 tribes, not a swap, go from 3 tribes to 2 tribes. That's how this used to work. Look at Survivor Cagayan. We had 3 tribes, okay? And now you voted 4 people out. Great. Okay, then after next week, then let's make 2 tribes.
Yeah.
And then merge.
Yeah. I think they have to. I think they have to keep changing things and keeping things fresh. But I agree with you. I think that would definitely be interesting. I mean, back in the day when they would switch tribes and they would find different ways to switch tribes, it's like, it would be interesting back then. But I think now it's like there's been so many seasons of Survivor, it gets more difficult trying to rearrange these twists and these swaps. So maybe they're just playing it safe and keeping it same tribes until the merge.
Okay. I had a question for you that I wanted to know. Have you seen any change in Jeff in season 43 from the Jeff that you saw in season 42?
I don't think so. I think I mean, I can only speak from my experience when I was out there with him. I know that, and I think that happened with production. It happened with all the contestants. Everyone was just so excited to be out there after the pandemic. He seemed
like he was in such a good mood.
Yeah, and I think the pandemic has a lot to do with it. When you realize you don't realize what you have until it's not there anymore. And when during the pandemic we didn't have so many things, that when it comes back we appreciate it so much more. And I think that's exactly what happened with Jeff and the production and the contestants, is the fact that we've all experienced this horrible thing as the pandemic and not being able to interact with each other and do the things we enjoyed, and getting an opportunity to go out there and do it again. It's like a second chance. So it definitely seems like they're having a lot more fun.
Okay. Romeo, what's next for you now? You've done Survivor, 3 Emmys.
Well, here's the thing. So my dreams were always, work in television, right?
Done.
Did that, win an Emmy, won 3, work for Miss Universe, because I watched Miss Universe. Every gay boy wants to work for Miss Universe. Did that. Go on Survivor. I did that. So now it's like people are like, what the hell? So now what, Romeo? It's like, what else do you have cross off your list? And I think the next thing is
don't say start a podcast.
No.
Okay.
No, the next thing is, focus on my personal life. I'm in the process of purchasing a home.
Oh, look at you.
I'm, finding love, building a family. I think that's next thing to cross off my list. I think it's time. I've been a bachelor for too long. Just because I look young doesn't necessarily mean I am young.
I mean, maybe this could be a reality show.
They should have like a Love Temptation Island. Okay, put me on that. Like, have some sort of love, gay, love is something. I'll do that.
Yeah. All right, Romeo. If anybody out there is listening, okay, would you date a fan of Survivor?
Never say never. Hey, there's been a lot of fans that have shot their shot. A lot of fans.
Okay.
But only one maybe got a little attention back just because he sent a really good shirtless pic, and there was no way that I couldn't reply to that. I was like, okay, fine. You dangled the carrot in my face.
Whoa. Okay.
But I don't know, like but I don't know. I don't know, because I want someone to like me for me, not because I on Survivor, not because I work in television, not because I won an Emmy. I want someone to like me for me.
Yeah.
So,
when you
but
date,
again, never say never.
Will you bring up that you were on Survivor, or do you kind of like not want to? I think about that a lot. About if I was ever like, no, I'm a happily married man, Romeo. But if I was single, like I think about like at what point would I tell people? Like would I lead with that? Would I?
Well, it's different. It's harder now, Rob, because back then you could not tell. You could pick and choose what you tell people.
Yeah.
But now it's not easy. Now it's like it's all out there. You just Google somebody's name, it's out there. It's on their Instagram. So it's like it's very hard to hide. I don't go out of my way and say, hey, by the way, I've won 3 Emmys. I've been on Survivor. Like that's not the type of person that I am. So, but again, it's like I want somebody to want me for me, not because of anything else.
Yeah. Okay. Romeo, well, this was so fun to go through everything from Survivor 43 and to get the chance to talk through your game. I'm really glad that you were able to do this.
Yeah, no, it was, we've been wanting to do this. I'm happy we finally found time to do it.
We covered so much ground.
We covered it all. Yeah, I'm excited. Even I became into like a little matchmaker at the end. So there's my Instagram.
Okay. At Romeo Esco, if you're listening to the podcast. Okay. All right. Yeah, you heard the right way to shoot your shot. Okay. If you're listening. And now after you've heard, okay. Oh, I didn't know Romeo has 3 Emmys. Okay. So okay, maybe 3 might be your lucky number.
That's true, right? No, my unlucky number with Survivor.
Well, 3 Emmys is pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just as long as it's not 3 marriages.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. Well, maybe if the 3rd one's the right one.
No, I want to hit a home run on the first one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Romeo, anything else you want people to check out?
No, I mean, what's next for me is my personal life, but I want to say like Survivor, again, has been an awesome opportunity. It's opened so much doors for me, more so than before. I was invited to all the prides here in LA.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to be doing stuff with GLAAD. I was on a cover of a Latino magazine. I'm going to be hosting some pageants coming up. I'm doing correspondent work for a show now. So it's like, I'm so grateful. And I'm just really excited to, I'm not going to say no. Like my mom says, never say no. There's money involved, except no OnlyFans, but anything else, it's fair game. So I'm excited to see where this next chapter takes me.
Okay. Well, thank you again for coming on and spending time with me today to talk about it. I know the listeners appreciate it too. We still have more Survivor to talk about. I'm going to be back with the Survivor Feedback Show on Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. I was going to say 2 p.m. I said on Tuesday. That at 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday. Puya Zambakili will join me. If you want to send in questions for that, go to robhasawebsite.com/S43questions or leave us a voicemail at robhasawebsite.com/voicemail, not to mention everything else going on in our Survivor podcast feed. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, robhasawebsite.com/subscribe, and appreciate you listening. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.